This is a Black Nouveau web exclusive for World AIDS Day. In the United States, more than half of the people who have died from AIDS-related illnesses have been African American. Medical advances may have lowered the death rate, but it has not stopped the disease. Today, there are more than 1 million people in the United States living with HIV, and almost half are African American.
I tested positive, it's over 28 years now. September 17, 1987 was the exact date. I got tested in a time when technology was new around HIV testing. So initially, I thought I had gotten what they called a false positive. But unfortunately, it was not a false positive. But I went into denial about my HIV status for several years until I started manifesting some health issues.
Ronnie Grace was living in Los Angeles when he tested positive for HIV. Openly gay, he worked in the entertainment industry. Like many of his peers, he went into denial.
As far as my going into denial, I was just scared. And that was the way that I dealt with it. It was just the fear of having a disease that people were saying at the time that we would live maybe 6 months with. And so I didn't know how to discuss it. I didn't have any information around HIV at the time. So I just figured if I just didn't talk about it, I figured that it might go away, or that I was one of those people who had gotten a false positive. And I just started using condoms, to protect myself and to protect my partners.
Ronnie moved to Atlanta and eventually fell ill. Then his family stepped in.
I actually had tried to commit suicide after finding out about my HIV diagnosis and becoming clearer about what it meant to have HIV. And so my mother sent my brothers to Atlanta, where I was living at the time, and she said, I want y'all to go down there, find my baby, and don't come back to Milwaukee without him. And so they brought me back here. I got into care immediately, and that's when I found out about that not only that I was living with HIV, but I was given an AIDS diagnosis. And I was told at the time, I wasn't doing really well. I was down to maybe like 120 pounds. What turned it around was the unconditional love, support of my family. My mother in particular was just an amazing ally and support system, and my siblings, and I got into care.
Ronnie works at Diverse and Resilient with a team of professionals that offer testing, counseling, and support for transgender, gay, and bisexual men with HIV. African Americans accounted for over 46% of new diagnoses in 2011, and 72% of those were transmitted by men having sex with men.
Stigma is still off the chain. As a matter of fact, just last week I was told that someone that I normally test found out that I was HIV positive and did not want to be tested by me anymore.
Ronnie is careful about his diet and follows a strict regimen.
For those of us who have managed to figure out ways to stay here, to stay healthy and take our meds and do the things to keep us here, it's like sometimes many of us feel like we're forgotten because so many of the efforts and so much of the outreach is to younger demographics. And so we still deal with issues around losing really close friends and family members. Even though I'm grateful to still be alive, there's still that guilt. As initially I think when I first developed the virus, it was like, why me? And now it's like, why not me? And then sometimes it's like, I just have so many feelings around still being here and watching the impact that the virus has had on, the African American communities.
According to the Centers for Disease Control, gay and bisexual African American males between the ages of 13 and 24 account for the largest number of new HIV infections. In Milwaukee, The estimate is that 1 of 5 has the virus, and most are poor. But there is a new weapon in the struggle against HIV. Many of the people living with HIV are unaware that they carry the virus. There are at least 50,000 new cases each year. Condoms and testing have been the major weapons used to stop the spread of HIV. In 2014, the Food and Drug Administration approved the use of a new weapon, pre-exposure prophylaxis, or PrEP. It is a pill that must be taken daily, and it is only for men and women who are HIV negative and at high risk for exposure to the virus. Theo Braden is openly gay. He worked as a program research assistant for the PrEP study at UW-Madison's Division of Infectious Diseases. He became interested in PrEP before he started that job, though, because he heard about it from a friend.
He was telling me all about it and ranting and raving about like how good this drug was and how it was spreading like wildfire. So the cool thing to do is to kind of be on it. So that was kind of, a lingering thought. But then growing up in a poor neighborhood, a poor black neighborhood, like I saw the devastating effects of HIV/AIDS. So it's always been near and dear to me. So I know like the reality of the disease, and if there was a way to prevent it, even if I am protecting myself all the time, I was sure gonna jump on board with it. I grew up in Tampa, Florida, like in this project complex called Review Terrace, and it was really run down. It was, lots of, drug addicts, and so it was just, HIV was rampant. I didn't see too many gay people, because I identify as gay, but there were lots and lots of heterosexual people who were HIV positive. And I think because HIV wasn't really talked about, it was talked about in terms of being like that stuff, or the ninja is what we used to call it. So we never actually named it and never had discussions around it, I think. That's why it was spreading like wildfire.
What about side effects? Did you have any side effects when you started taking PrEP?
Well, the thing of it is, it's like when you started, you hear so many stories about, nausea and like having vivid dreams. And so I can recall thinking I had a vivid dream, but I don't think I did. I think it was, imagined. So ever since I've started it, I've had no side effects whatsoever.
He's been taking 1 pill a day since October of 2014.
You have to take the regimen daily in order for it to work. And so if you skip a dose and if you end up having, unprotected sex, then you could become HIV, become infected with HIV. And the medications don't work, if you are HIV positive. So it's, to make sure that you are getting what you need in terms of healthcare. And so I, get tested for HIV and syphilis every 3 months, and then also with every 3 months I have to undergo a lab panel for to check my creatinine levels, because there is a potential that it might have it might impact your kidneys, and so they check, to look at your creatinine levels and to make sure that everything's functioning well, and everything has been, and I've had no complaints. It's been wonderful.
Just as HIV carries a stigma, so does PrEP.
I think from what I see, there's a lot of stigma about PrEP, which is kind of why I was a little bit, leery of being out about being on it, because there's this association that if you're on PrEP, and that means you must obviously want to be having unprotected, sex. And I don't think that that's true. I mean, I think there are people who do it for those reasons, but I think another reason is that you just want to be, at least in my case, I want to be as safe as possible. And so I want people to kind of look past the stigma of being, oh, if I take PrEP, that means I'm going to be having, tons of wild unprotected sex. People are going to be thinking that about me. And to instead look at it as a way of just making sure that they are protected. And if you can protect yourself without any side effects, at least in my experience, and why not do that?
Imagine that you start taking PrEP once a day. Your body digests the pills, and the medication starts building up protection for your T cells. After taking a pill each day for about a week, your T cells are getting maximum protection.
This video offers an in-depth explanation of how PrEP works to prevent the HIV virus from successfully spreading. It can be found at whatisprep.org. You can also get more information about PrEP at the AIDS Resource Center of Wisconsin, arcw.org/PrEP, or by calling 800-359-9272.